to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV, on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99, where you can also find us in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and on City Cable 15 of Southfield. Join us live on Channel 10 in Waterford every day on the Media Network of Waterford, and live to tape on Channel 10 in Lake Orion and Orion Township on Orion Neighborhood Television, otherwise known as ONTV. You can also find us on the radio in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area and Troy on 88.1 The Biff, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District with 24/7 operations out of Bloomfield Hills High School. Find us online on our Facebook pages at Civic Center TV 15 and at Lakes FM, on our website at civiccentertv.com, and on My Michigan TV, otherwise known as My, which is over at MyTV.com, MYMITV.com, where you can also learn more about downloading their free My Michigan TV apps for your smartphone and your smart TV. All that information is on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can also find all of our programs on demand and each individual interview as well. Then let's head over to our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where we have links to the most up-to-date information on COVID-19 from reliable expert resources at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division, so that you can stay up to date on everything that you need to know about the spread of COVID-19, precautionary tactics such as masking, social distancing, and so on, as well as vaccinations and booster shots. Also on our page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, we feature articles from many journalistic outlets throughout the state of Michigan in order to keep you up to date on COVID-19 and other stories making headlines across the Great Lakes state. Our top story today in Oakland County: Birmingham schools budget shortfall goes from $1.6 million up just slightly to $14 million. This is from the Detroit Free Press. Birmingham Public Schools miscalculated its budget somehow by $11 million this year, and financial officials revised the district's estimated shortfall from $1.6 million to $14.3 million. Quite a stark change. Man, I may have just carried one too many ones there. The district also revealed in a financial update at the end of February that it has been overcharging property taxpayers in the district as well, and that the error will result in credits to taxpayers. The overcharge this year amounted to $2.2 million, according to Maria Gestinger, Interim Assistant Superintendent for Business Services. The dramatic revision of the budget's expected shortfall is unusual for a school district, yet that's for sure. It's still unclear how exactly the school district amassed such a shortfall, which is equivalent to about 10% of the district's general fund spending. Birmingham officials did not respond to an interview request from the Detroit Free Press, surprise, surprise, but shared a statement to community members that the district overestimated student enrollment numbers while underestimating salary, health insurance, payroll tax, retirement, and other benefit costs. Things you don't need a count day for. Anyway, continuing on, Superintendent Rebecca Roberson wrote in a letter to the community that the district planned to share more updates about the shortfall going forward. Quote, "We can and will do this with transparently and responsibly with minimal impact on our students' education," she wrote, continuing on. "We will keep our families, staff, and students updated on the situation in the days ahead," and closed quote. Nearly 7,400 students attend Birmingham Public Schools, a district in Oakland County. The district lost 186 students between this school year and last school year, according to state data. Schools in Michigan are funded per student, of course. Birmingham officials wrote that the district originally projected it would receive about $6 million more in state aid and property taxes than it actually did. Craig Thiel, a research director at the Citizens Research Council of Michigan, a nonprofit government research organization based out of Livonia, said that the district is well into the budget year, which ends about 4 months from now on June 30th of 2022. It likely has a much clearer picture of its spending, but Thiel also said the high discrepancy between the original budget reported by the Birmingham Public School District and the amended budget reported this month is unusual. So what happens next? That's a great question. The district has a rainy day fund balance of about $20 million, but Birmingham's policy allows it to use only about $3 to $4 million toward addressing the shortfall, according to a district Q&A about the budget. The district only vaguely addressed whether there would be budget cuts to address the shortfall. Officials wrote in a Q&A that Birmingham's leadership team would first explore, quote-unquote, other funding avenues at the federal and state levels, seeking cost-saving opportunities, expanding revenue-generating programs, and creating long-term financial planning processes, end close quote. It continued on that statement saying, quote, if the structural deficit persists or gets worse, we will have to make tough choices and difficult adjustments in the weeks and months ahead, end closed quote. That is directly from the Q&A provided by the Birmingham Public School District. The district also wrote that it is planning to strengthen its exit process to help retain students who might be planning to leave the STEM enrollment loss. Might be planning to leave to STEM enrollment loss. Quote, it said it's unclear how tax credits will come to property owners who were overcharged. The district has pledged to work with its auditors and attorneys to more accurately calculate its millage rate. Gistinger wrote that this year the district miscalculated enrollment numbers and property tax values, which led to the over levy. Taxpayers can expect a lower millage rate next year to compensate, she wrote. Spokesperson Ann Cron wrote in an email that the district school board will be reviewing and voting on the amended budget at its next regular meeting. That is 7 p.m. March 15th. Again, for those of you that would like, in Birmingham, that would like to address your school district in a public open forum meeting, that will happen 7 p.m. on March 15th. More information on this story from the Detroit Free Press on their website at freep.com. You can also get the article directly from our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Also making headlines today at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus from our friends at the Detroit News. The GOP-led legislature is set to propose a 6-month pause on Michigan's 27-cent gas tax. The Republican-led legislator will start voting today on legislation that would suspend Michigan's 27-cent gas tax, as well as a resolution calling for Governor Whitmer to, quote, support energy independence, and close quote, whatever they mean by that here in the state of Michigan. House Speaker Jason Wentworth and Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey announced the plan Wednesday morning in a joint statement a day after the after Governor Whitmer signed on to a letter calling on the federal government to put a pause on the 18-cent per gallon federal gas tax. Under the legislation to be voted on Wednesday in the House of Representatives, Michigan's 27-cent per gallon gas tax would be removed through the end of the fiscal year or over the next 6 months. Quote, why in the world would we write a letter to Congress asking for lower gas prices someday when we can just step up and fix it ourselves, and close quote, asked Representative Wentworth, a Republican from Farwell, in a statement. Wentworth continued on saying, quote, Michigan has billions of dollars in surplus revenue available and one of the nation's highest state fuel taxes. The solution here isn't complicated, and close quote. While the House will vote Wednesday to suspend both the gas and the diesel tax, the Senate will push the bill through next week after a 5-day layover required when new bills pass from one chamber to the next. Both Representative Shirkey and Wentworth both Senator Shirkey and Representative Wentworth estimated the suspension of the 27-cent per gallon fuel tax would save drivers a total of about $750 million over the course of the 6-month pause. Quote, this is a serious situation that requires more than letter writing and magnanimous gestures of asking someone else to foot the bill, said Shirkey in a statement. Continuing on, Senator Shirkey said, quote, 6 in 10 Michiganders are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to feed their families, heat their homes, and put enough gas in their cars to get to work. Republicans in the legislature will also vote to help residents keep more of what they earn, but we need the governor to lead instead of abdicating her responsibilities to Washington, and closed quote. Michigan's average price of gas as of Wednesday was $4.25, according to AAA estimates. The average price a month ago was $3.37. Governor Whitmer joined 5 other governors on Tuesday calling for congressional leaders to suspend the federal gas tax, which is about 18.4 cents per gallon, until the end of the year. Quote, at a time when people are directly impacted by rising prices on everyday goods, a federal gas tax holiday is a tool in the toolbox to reduce costs for Americans, and we urge you to give every consideration to this proposed legislation, the governor's letter said. Both Senator Shirkey and Representative Wentworth noted that the governor also has on her desk a $2.5 billion tax cut plan that includes increased deductions for seniors, a personal income tax cut, and a $500 child tax credit. Governor Whitmer said the cuts proposed are quote-unquote unsustainable and instead touted her plan to roll back taxes on some retirement incomes and increase the Earned Income Tax Credit, or EITC. Quote, rejecting our income tax cut and passing the buck to Washington, D.C. here doesn't solve a thing, in close quote, Wentworth said in a Wednesday statement. Representative Wentworth continued on saying, quote, the governor keeps saying she wants to cut taxes, but I'm not sure she's actually willing to do it. I guess we'll find out soon, in close quote. The legislature also plans on passing a resolution urging the governor to put her support behind, quote unquote, energy independence and end her, quote, her opposition to the Great Lakes Tunnel project, in close quote. Governor Whitmer in November of 2020 called for the shutdown of Enbridge's 68-year-old Line 5 segment through the Straits of Mackinac, but the governor has not moved to block a planned tunnel to house a new segment of Line 5. She ordered her departments to process permit applications for the tunnel project as they would normally, even as she called on the pipeline's closure. The pipeline has yet to close as Enbridge and the state remain locked in legal battles over the shutdown order in court. The $500 million tunnel is awaiting one more state approval before construction starts from the Michigan Public Service Commission, as well as permitting approvals from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Line 5 carries about 540,000 barrels of light crude oil and natural gas liquid. Studies over the impact of a Line 5 shutdown are conflicting, with industry-sponsored assessments predicting large increases in gas prices and opposition-sponsored studies predicting a smaller impact on wallets because of alternative transportation such as pipelines, rail, and trucking. That full article from the Detroit News on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Lastly, making headlines on our coronavirus page from our friends at Bridge, Michigan. The Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission has finished its maps months ago. So why is it still meeting? Despite approving the new congressional and state legislative maps over 2 months ago, the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission continues to meet and commissioners continue to get paid. That's partly because there's no clear expiration date for the group created in 2018 by a voter-approved constitutional amendment that some observers and experts now say was too vague. Quote, the drafters of the amendment did sort of create an issue, said Steve Liddell, an attorney who worked as legal counsel to former Democratic Governor Jennifer Granholm to Bridge, Michigan. The Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission was created after voters overwhelmingly supported a constitutional amendment proposal that changed how the state draws boundaries for congressional and state legislative districts, as well as our federal representative districts. The prior process, in which the majority party in the Michigan legislature drew the districts every decade after the decennial census, led to some of the most gerrymandered districts in the entire country. The constitutional amendment says that, quote, the terms of the commissioners shall expire once the commission has completed its obligations for a census cycle, but not before any judicial review of the redistricting plan is complete, in close quote. There are now 2 legal challenges pending against the maps that were approved by the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission in December. A simple reading of the Constitution would suggest that once those lawsuits are resolved, the commission's work would end. But some commissioners say that's not clear. The maps are expected to go into effect later on this month, but it could take months for the legal issues to be resolved, and there could be more legal challenges in the next few years as well. The old districts approved in 2011 were challenged in federal court by the League of Women Voters in 2017, and the case dragged on all the way to 2019. The issue has gained resonance in the past few weeks when commissioners voted to increase their salary by 7% to nearly $59,650. And the 13-member commission asked its legal team to advise them on when to stop meeting. Nancy Wang, the executive director of Voters Not Politicians, the group behind the push for the constitutional amendment, originally told Bridge, Michigan in a text message that the amendment will have to be interpreted by the commission's lawyers. Quote, it is impossible to answer or even analyze questions regarding hypothetical mid-cycle litigation without knowing the issues, the parties, or the precise timing, all of which would impact such analyses, Wang said. Rebecca Satella, the chair of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, told Bridge, Michigan, quote, it seems more likely that the commission should disband rather than just continue on for the next 9 years in perpetuity, in closed quote. She continued on saying, quote, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, in closed quote. She believes that the legal opinion should be able to shed some light on the issue and clarify the commission's next steps. That's, quote, that's the concern, that if we disband and then call and then the call goes out 2 years from now, are we going to have those 9 people immediately that we need to take actions, Zatella said, referring to the fact that the Constitution requires at least 9 of the 13 members to be present in order to have a quorum for those meetings. Liddell, however, said it might be necessary to get a judge to decide what the commission does next. Quote, the legislature can't pass a law to decide the length of the commissioner's term, Liddell said, and the commission can't adopt language with regard to the length of their terms that would be inconsistent with the Constitution, close quote. So Liddell said it's likely that the court would have to decide whether a new lawsuit automatically extends the commissioner's terms or whether Michigan's Secretary of State would have to select 13 new commissioners in the same decade. That full article from our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Sorry, on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. It's from Bridge, Michigan. You can find all those articles as well as more information on COVID-19 on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. We have a great program ahead today. Coming up next, stop telling your kids to be careful. That's right. It may not be as effective in keeping them safe as you may think. We'll talk to Carrie Krawick, a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic, about alternative strategies to encourage safety in our kids. Next, you're watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you did. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
As partners working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is the source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Joining us now is Carrie Krawick, a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic, back with us once again on the Oakland County Megacast. Carrie, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning.
Appreciate having you on. Good morning to you as well. So parents, we'll start with parenting. Parents love to encourage their kids to go out and have their own little adventures, explore, kind of be creative outside of the home, get away from those video games and technology and explore the outside world. Often when they're doing that, they send their kids out to some sort of activity or just to play outside, and they'll say the words, be careful. You are in the school of thought that be careful may not actually be a very helpful phrase to be telling these kids when they are going out and doing these various things. Let's talk about that. Start off with why, what the flaws are with be careful, and what is a better approach to encouraging safety for your kids.
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, I'm a totally guilty offender. I have a 7.5-year-old and a 4-year-old, so I say be careful probably 1,000 times a day. But the problem with it, especially at different ages, like for example, the kids as young as mine, is that be careful is very vague. It doesn't really give them an idea of what you want them to do. It gives them no roadmap. So maybe an older child might know what you mean when you say be careful, but a younger child would need a specific direction, like hold hands, look both ways, slow down, use walking feet. A younger child would need a very specific direction of what you want to do with what part of their body to understand what you mean. The other thing that's wrong with be careful is that it sort of implies everything is dangerous. And it also kind of requires your kid to have you there to kind of oversee. And in some ways, you might be like over assessing their risk, and they may not either not trust you, like that you know what's going on, which would be the worst case scenario. If you say, oh, those monkey bars are dangerous and there's 16 kids on the monkey bars, they're going to start to trust other kids over you. But also you want the opportunity. I think the most important thing as parents is you want the opportunity to congratulate your kids for their choices, to boost their esteem. So a better way would be to say, you know, wow, like this morning, it's very slick outside this morning, to say, whoa, look at this driveway. It's so icy. What is your plan to get from here to the car? And see if they can give you some ideas. You know, I'm going to hold on, I'm going to walk slow, I'm going to, you know, walk on the grass. And then you get to say, wow, brilliant idea. You're really thinking. I love the way your mind works. And that's the kind of stuff that boosts your kids' esteem and makes them more likely to use it on their own the next time.
Yeah, it's great for younger kids, that method too, because they're still so plastic. They're able to then develop some creativity and some independent thought and
Yes.
think ahead on certain things that may be a hazard to them from an early age. For those that are older children that are in their they're in their late tween years or in their teen years, they've been hearing their parents say be careful for so long. What are some of the flaws in that directive to them, especially given that they have developed a greater sense of independence by that point in their life?
Sure. Well, so I think, right, like by that time, you're probably going to get a kid go, Mom, you know, like, I know. So like, right, it'll feel to them kind of juvenile and like you don't trust them. And like that you don't have confidence or in their competence. And so I think to start kind of, you can do the same way, like, and even take ownership. God, like, as my instinct as mom, I want to say be careful, but I trust that you're going to be careful, but why don't you tell me what you're going to do to be careful? And I know you got it, but like, just let me know what you got and have a little, and then you avoid the argument about it. And instead they're informing you of what's going to go on in their life.
And so, other just general words or phrases. You mentioned that specificity would be a better way to address encouraging being careful for a parent to their child. But are there other general phrases that will maybe take a child in a different direction without, especially an older child that has heard be careful their entire life, without seeming like I don't trust you or I don't think you have the capacity to make smart decisions?
Sure. So I think always with kids, like we said, to be specific, behavioral, to also, you know, as often as you can, avoid stop directions or negative directions and instead start directions. So what do you want your child to do? It's helpful for the child because, like I said, it gives them a roadmap so they know what your expectation is. But it's helpful for you because you can catch it. You know, it's you say stop running or, you know, stop doing that or whatever it is. And then you don't always stop and say, wow, that was great listening. But if you give them a start direction, it offers you the opportunity to see it in play and catch it. Like, wow, I saw you do exactly what I told you to. That was great. So it's good to also, you know, rewarding for parents to recognize that, you know, our kids really are listening to us. You know, it's very easy to think of all the times they ignored what we said. And it helps us to kind of say, wow, I said this and they did this. Like, that's a win-win.
We're joined by Carrie Krawick. She is a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic, joining us on the Megacast. Carrie, of course, as we've talked about so many times before, there continues to be an impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on children, on families, on individuals. As we're starting to see things really take a more positive turn toward us maybe being able to put COVID-19 in the rearview mirror, we're seeing the mask mandates sort of go away, those mask requirements in certain businesses, suggestions from government agencies and public health agencies start to dwindle away. That sort of stark transition from where we were just a few weeks ago, where we were near it, where we were still at the peak of a major surge, the largest surge of cases of COVID-19 statewide and really across the nation since the onset of the pandemic. How can that sort of a transition, kind of that stark transition between in the thick of a surge to now it looks like this may be the end of things, that coming out of this pandemic is going to be just as complicated psychologically, I would imagine, as it was going into it and making all those various changes. How should we be approaching that as individuals and then as people that are interacting with others and are interacting with their families to help each other along?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you really touched the base. Although it feels stark in many ways, and then maybe for others it's felt gradual, this change, but that, each person, I mean, I really think is offering grace to yourself and grace to the rest of your members of your household or your community. Patience that, not everybody's going to have the same amount of readiness to every situation. Even looking at the kids this week, this is their first week with no masks in their little educational careers, and some are thrilled, some are uncertain, some are still anxious about the potential of infection. And so just recognizing to really, of course, coaching your kids not to tease or confront other students who maybe have a different position than them, or their households have a different position than them, but to also within your household, really accept and respect each person's readiness to do each sort of level of things. Whether, we're talking about spring break coming up, some families will be on their airplanes for the first time in 3 or more years. And, just being patient that there is going to be anxiety, there is going to be uncertainty. That would all be normal. That keeping in mind, we want to think about intensity, frequency, and duration. So as we pass through time, if anxiety gets lower, it's not as strong, it doesn't last as long, that's a good thing. If we stay at a heightened anxiety despite everybody else kind of moving on and things seemingly fine, then that would be cause for concern.
We're joined by Carrie Krawick from the Birmingham Maple Clinic joining us on the Megacast. As we're approaching that too, with kids, you mentioned the kids that are going back into school with masks off for the first time. For many of them that either started kindergarten or were in the early years of their schooling when the pandemic began. Now they're going back into there, but they're also going back into other areas of their life as well. And this is all that they've known so far, really, in their youth is COVID-19, or at least in their schooling age. How should parents be approaching explaining to them what may be even more confusing for a child coming out of a pandemic where this is a crisis, this is how life has been normal, but that's not how normal really ever was, and now we're going away from that.
Sure. Again, I don't know that I think it would be tailored to each kid at each age or stage. But I think, for one, I just think of people I've talked to personally or professionally, something that's coming up, especially like you said, for those youngest ones that perhaps didn't have preschool or daycare in their early part of their life, were kind of thrust into full-time school at this stage, but had been kind of insulated by their family for 2 years, where maybe, everybody kind of gets their quirks and they get the rules. Now they're in a school situation where the rules are changing, the expectations are changing, and it feels exceptionally overwhelming. So, the little kindergartners and first graders, they're like, really, really taking on a lot of what's expected of me now. And wouldn't it be a lot easier if I just stayed home? Because that seemed to make a lot more sense to me. So again, just really being patient, working on, what are their strategies? How can they calm themselves? Who can they ask for help if they need them? What kinds of things can they maybe think about in their mind, remind themselves, that they are able to get through these days. At different ages and stages, like I said, it would be different. I think it would just be normal to feel uncomfortable, but that also, I think also educating everybody, not in our families and our households, that it's okay to feel uncomfortable. And actually, it's even okay to feel a little bit stressed. We're human beings. We were meant to do great things, and it wasn't meant to just be easy and comfortable all the time. And in fact, it's the best for us to challenge ourselves a little bit. So be that kind of attitude of positivity to say, I know you can do it. I know we all can do it, and we can do hard things.
We're joined by therapist Carrie Krawick from the Birmingham Maple Clinic on the Megacast. Carrie, just another couple of minutes with you, and so I wanted to ask, because of course with COVID-19 we've been seeing crisis after crisis after crisis within this crisis that have been reported on, that have been in the news, that have been all the discussion on the town. And it's kind of in a similar sense with the crisis overseas in Ukraine. We're seeing a lot of different talks about the way that our country and the United States is involved, our allies are involved. It seems to be this worldwide pressure cooker that everyone's looking out on, and that can cause a lot of anxiety for people all across the world in various situations, as they're looking at that and considering what role they or their country may be playing in that going forward. What suggestion do you have for people to kind of decompress themselves from that pressure without ignoring the worldwide implications that crises like the Russian invasion of Ukraine
Sure.
obviously have.
Sure. I mean, I think when you and I talked last, we kind of talked about this. During the pandemic, we were told about viral load, which was the amount of infection, the amount of symptoms, the amount of problems we got was directly related to how much disease we were presented with. And I think the same philosophy goes with the information that we take in. So yeah, once upon a time in a war many, many moons ago, you wouldn't have heard about it unless via postcard 30 days later. But now we get information constantly. We talk about it. We hear it on our news. We get it on our phones. We get it on our iWatches. Like, we get information all the time. The sheer volume of information impacts how much it affects us. So now some of us are more resilient to it than others. We've been talking about kids this morning. Kids are going to have either in some ways their own resiliency. It's going to fly right over their head and they're not going to understand it at all. For other kids, they're just going to soak it up and see the world as a scary place. I mean, I think the best thing that families can do is really restrict the kind of information they're getting, the sources of information they're getting, and even the need to get it constantly. That, like, perhaps prescribing a time a day to scan the news and have that be sort of very, predictable and routine, and perhaps even cushion it in, before or after something more calming or smoothing. I mean, soothing, I think returning to, of course, more time, like we said, more time outdoors, taking walks in nature, reading, doing creative endeavors. Those are the things that really insulate and protect us from the stress of just consuming information that seems dark, dreary, and bleak.
Carrie, we appreciate your time. Anything else at this moment that parents or individuals should be considering with everything else that's going on, or any other tips at this moment in time to protect our mental health throughout our community?
I think you had mentioned some days soon we'll have a 60-degree day. Like I said, get outside, take a walk, enjoy some nature. Those are really such a factor for resiliency, for mindfulness, for meditative experience, which really help us throughout our entire lifetime.
Carrie, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sophia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
72.7% of high school students get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. This can cause pain, obesity, and can very negatively affect your mental health. When you have a consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, you get sick less often, lose more weight, and have better relationships with those around you. For more information about the dangers of sleep deprivation, go to sleepfoundation.org. This message is brought to you by the WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
Joining us now from the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan is their Executive Director, Robert Boyle, back with us once again on the Megacast. Robert, thank you for being with us today.
Hey, Tyler, great to be with you again.
Great to have you with us. So we've talked to the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan before. We've talked about this organization, but for those that are either tuning in for the first time or maybe missed that interview or have just never heard of your organization, give us an overview about what your organization does to support families here in Metro Detroit.
Sure. The Furniture Bank has a mission to provide beds and furniture to children and families in need. And that's really simple. This means that kids have warm beds to sleep in instead of having to sleep on a cold floor. This means that a family has a table that they can sit around to share a meal. And they can feel good about the home that they're living in. They can live with stability and dignity. We take furniture donations. That's a huge part of what we do. Is we take in furniture donations, and we have 2 trucks, 3 now, that are on the road 6 days a week, collecting from Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County. And then with the furniture that we get, we take in referrals from a network of 75 health and human service partners, and we're providing these items to families that are in poverty, transitioning from homelessness, working with child protective services, and fleeing crisis or abuse. You were just talking about, the refugee resettlement, and we've seen a real large influx of refugees that we've had to provide furniture for, that and flood victims too. So we're at a point right now, actually, Tyler, and this is one of the reasons why I'm with you today, where we're just not getting enough furniture to keep up with the need in the families that are being referred to us. So I hope that this will give us an opportunity to talk about what we do and hopefully get some more furniture for local folks in need.
Yeah, I just read an article that was associated with your organization that the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan currently are experiencing a 60% year-over-year increase in requests from furniture for local families. When did that surge start to really begin, and what are some of the factors that are behind such a dramatic increase? I mean, that's above 1.5 times what you had been doing before. That's 60%. That's significant.
Absolutely. So again, we've had refugees coming into the country from Afghanistan and other places. We may yet see folks from Ukraine that we would want to help as well. There were a series of floods that displaced a lot of Metro Detroiters. And, even though those happened in the summertime, by the time, they stay in motels for a while and get the resources they need to get back on their feet and into homes, months go by. As a matter of fact, we helped a family, a single mom with 4 kids, get a house full of furniture just in time for Christmas. So her family could, celebrate in a home and not just an empty house. But lastly, and really the largest contributing factor has been, the end of the eviction moratorium, which even though that ended back in September, by the time so many of the court systems have dealt with their backlogs, we're just now seeing just enormous volumes of referrals coming in a manner that, we haven't even hit our busy season yet. And we just don't have enough furniture for the families who are coming in, and they need it. And you can donate furniture by calling us at 248-332-1300 or visiting our website at www.furniture-bank.org. And I can assure you, as soon as we get furniture from the Metro Detroit community, who's always been very generous with us, it's going to go right in the homes of a local family who absolutely needs it.
Again, furniture-bank.org is their website, furniture-bank.org, 248-332-1300, 248-332-1300 for more information or to donate your furniture to the organization. So a 60% increase in year-over-year need in furniture. Is that across the board and needs for general furniture for the home, or are there specific needs that are greater that you're finding, that your organization is finding as being that necessity for these families that are in need of this furniture?
Well, I would say one thing. We always need beds, and that is usable, gently used mattresses and box springs. Not all organizations take them, and as soon as we do, we spray them to make sure that they've been sterilized and heaven forbid, don't pose any health risks. Bed bugs is a big thing, and we do spray all of our items to make sure that we don't have any critters on them. But on any given month, we're going to distribute between 80 and 100 dressers. Last year, we provided out about 1,100 dressers to families. Right now, we do not have a single dresser in our warehouse for families who need them. So if you have a dresser in good condition that you're not using, please call us at 248-332-1300 or visit furniture-bank.org to look into donating it, because there are local families that are in desperate need of these items.
We're joined by Robert Boyle, the Executive Director of the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan, on the Megacast. Again, their phone number 248-332-1300, 248-332-1300, or visit their website, furniture-bank.org, to learn more information. So you mentioned gently used. And that's kind of a subjective term. It's kind of eye to eye, whatever somebody's definition of gently used is. For your organization, as people are going through some of their furniture, they maybe are ready to get some new furniture and replace the one that they have, or they are just wanting to downsize and get rid of some of the furniture that they have. What should they be doing as they're gauging whether or not this is gently used, or this is worthy of donating to an organization such as yours? What should they be doing to do their own checks before they call you, before they go through the whole process and donate furniture that may or may not be usable?
So we're unable to accept, or we're not looking for items that are stained, torn, structurally damaged. I know that we have a dog that likes to jump on our sofa and cuddle with us, and that may not be an appropriate sofa for us to donate to an organization like the Furniture Bank. So we ask that the furniture is in good condition or usable condition. Many of us are blessed, and we're not getting rid of furniture because it's worn out. We just want something that's new or a different color or matches the way we just painted the walls. We ask that furniture is in good repair. And the main reason why we do that is we want the families who are coming to us to feel good about their homes. All the kids who receive beds from the Furniture Bank, and we give out about 800 beds to kids on an annual basis, we buy them new bedding. So they can feel good about the bed that they're sleeping in and get a healthy night's sleep and a healthy start in life, and hopefully do well in school. Most people, when they think of basic needs, Tyler, they think of food, clothing, and shelter. But if you close your eyes for a minute and you imagine what your home would be like without any furniture, and if you were just living in your house or apartment and with nothing more than a floor, ceiling, and walls, you would really appreciate just how difficult, how stressful it would be to live in an environment like that for days, weeks, months, or heaven forbid, years. And that's why we're here, because we want families to feel good about their home, to have a nurturing home that allows them to get gainful employment or obtain gainful employment, and their kids to have a good shot at doing well in school. And if you're living in just an empty shell of a house or an apartment, that's just not possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you really do think about it, you take the time and just put yourself in that experience, even for one night. I mean, I think about when I had first moved into the apartment I'm currently living in, and I had just gone over there to clean some things after move-in day and all of that, move a couple little things into the apartment initially. Ended up being quite a late night. I wasn't going to go back. I had been living with my dad before that, and so I had this chair that my grandparents had given me. It had a couple of cushions on it. I just put those cushions down on the ground, and I slept there for the night. And really, and I didn't really think much about it at the time, but talking to organizations like yours and others that are doing similar things or are talking about similar topics in terms of housing, in terms of basic necessities that we tend to overlook in our communities that are tend to be more fortunate or not really even ever thinking about being in these kinds of situations. You put yourself in that scenario and think about that not being one night, that not being a few nights or being a week, that being every day, every week, every night. And then you think about the kids too in these families that are also in that situation. And then they're going to school, the parents are working. You're not in a comfortable bed, you're not in a comfortable situation, even though you got a roof over your head. That affects other areas of your life. And that's all the more reason why it's so important, if you have the means to do so, that you're able to, that you donate your furniture, or you try to help people in our communities that are in need of these. So I want to talk through some process with you, Robert. If somebody, an individual or their family, are in a situation where they don't have furniture, they can't afford furniture for their home, and they need help from your organization's services, how can they go about doing that?
Well, if they can call us again in order to come to us, you need a referral. We get referrals from, say, Lighthouse of Oakland County Community Housing Network. Alternatives for Girls is a large referral partner. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is also a human partner. So you get a referral this way. We know that those we're serving have been pre-screened for need, and they're working with human service professionals and social work professionals so they can overcome other barriers and put other supports in place. You know, Tyler, a full 80% of the families we serve on an annual basis have household incomes of about $15,000 to $10,000 a year. And, you know, on average, there's 3 people in the home. And so you can imagine how difficult it is to be able to afford furniture while you're still keeping up on your bills, while you're still trying to put food on the table, you know, while you're still making your rent payment. And that's where, you know, the value of, you know, our program comes in. But, you know, as you pointed out, you know, if you don't have furniture in your home, it's going to be a very difficult, stressful life. You mentioned just one night of having to, you know, sleep on a floor. And, you know, I remember I was speaking to one of the gentlemen that we helped one time, and, you know, he had nothing when he came to us, and he told me that, you know, he had a jacket, and the jacket would alternate between pillow or blanket, you know, depending on how cold his apartment was that night. And, you know, whether or not it would be better served if he put it under his head or if he put it over himself to keep himself warm enough. And, you know, that's just not a quality of life that, you know, we want our neighbors to live in. And again, you know, if this gentleman is going to obtain a job and hold it down, he's going to need a better night's rest than, you know, sleeping on a floor with his jacket as either his pillow or his blanket, depending on the circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. We're joined by Robert Boyle, the Executive Director of the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan, joining us on the Megacast. Again, their website, furniture-bank.org, furniture-bank.org, and their phone number, 248-332-1300, 248-332-1300. On the other side of that, Robert, if somebody is or someone or some family is wanting to donate some of their furniture from their home, what is the process of initiating that donation to the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan and then getting that eventually donated? You
just started it perfectly, Tyler. They can call us at 248-332-1300 or visit furniture-bank.org. And then once they call us, we're going to get them an appointment on our schedule. And right now we're scheduling about a week or two out. We have a free pickup service if you're putting your donated furniture on either your porch or in your garage. For the essentials that families need to get, you know, get back on their feet, we'll take any of those items, and those are, you know, mattresses and box springs, dining tables and chair sets, sofas, dressers. As I said, we're in desperate need of dressers and other household basics, end tables, nightstands, coffee tables. You know, we'll take all the basics out of your home for only $50 because we need those for local families who are in a tough way. And at the same time, you know, we also have a furniture removal service for items that these families don't need, but you may not want in your house. For example, a china cabinet. You know, you may not want a china cabinet. If you wanted to donate it to us, we don't have much use for it because the families that we're serving have small homes and apartments, and they don't have china. So, but for $100, we'll take that china cabinet out of the home for you, and we will put it out in a free community area where anybody locally who has a use for it can take it. And the money that we make, that $100 we make taking the china cabinet out of your home, that's going to be used to help families in need. And this way we can collect more of the basics so we can put kids in warm beds at night and make sure that families can live with the stability and dignity that many of us take for granted.
We're joined by Robert Boyle, the Executive Director of the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan, joining us on the Megacast. Again, to donate, 248-332-1300, or visit their website at furniture-bank.org, and then you can help families in need right here in our community. It could be your neighbors, it could be your coworkers, it could be anybody in the community. Just because it's out of sight, out of mind, doesn't mean it's not happening. These are issues that are plaguing our community here in Michigan and those all across the U.S. and around the world. So any bit that you can help is certainly appreciated. Robert, at this time, what, outside of course, the vast increase in need for furniture donations, what are some other needs for your organization that the community could help with, including possible volunteer opportunities, certainly financial donations?
You know, we have, if folks want to come and maybe help us answer phones, we have some people who come in on a regular basis, and you know, they enjoy working with, you know, furniture donors and even the clients that we're serving to schedule appointments for them to come in and take their furniture. So there are volunteer opportunities available. Like many organizations, I mean, we need money to support the work that we do. I think the last time I was on your show, I was here talking about a fundraiser. We don't have any on the calendar until the fall, but you know, that is another area, you know, that the trucks don't put fuel in themselves. And as we've all seen, you know, the price of fuel has spiked considerably in recent days. And, you know, 20-foot box trucks take a lot of fuel, and they take a farthing or two to keep in good repair. So monetary donations are always welcome and needed in order to help 2,000 families every year, which is about what we're helping. We're about 6,000 folks in total. And last year, we distributed about 16,000 items to folks who truly needed them. So, you know, with furniture donations and monetary donations, hopefully this year, you know, we'll see that number go up to 2,500 or even 3,000, because already we're on a much higher pace than we were last year in terms of families needing our assistance.
Robert, thank you so much for joining us.
Tyler, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's the Great Lakes water. And so what people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes. They stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
We as Michiganders feel connected to this resource in a way that I think is really powerful.
Conservation starts with a caring, committed community.
For me, it's peaceful to have a relationship with the river.
Every single one of us has a role to make sure that those waterways stay safe and healthy, being careful about what goes down the storm drain.
Just even eliminating some of your single-use plastic makes a difference.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program at 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
The leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Welcome to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. Learn more about the program at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you will find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. April 18th is tax day this year, and to help you keep ahead of all the new rules in place and help you prevent having a conversation with the friendly folks over at the Internal Revenue Service, we are pleased to be joined now by Dr. Agustin Arbulu, President and COO of W Tax Group. Dr. Arbulu, thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome, Tyler. Just call me Augie.
Augie, okay, I will call you Augie then. Augie, of course, as I mentioned, April 18th is the day that taxes are due to be filed in the U.S. this year. Can you tell us, as we're approaching that date and people are preparing their taxes, either themselves individually, using an online service, maybe going to a CPA, whatever the case may be, what are some of the common mistakes that people may make on their taxes this year that could get them in some murky water, or at least having to do corrections with the IRS?
Oftentimes, it's really omission of income. It'll be either a W-2 or more likely a 1099 that they didn't include. You can get a 1099 for $5 that you interest you earned from an institution, or you get a 1099 that comes in late. Sometimes it hasn't yet come to the taxpayer. And by the time they file it, sometimes they file it early, it's not reported. And they just forgot. As you get older, people do tend to forget. Oftentimes, I will advise clients to take their time, maybe ask for an extension to make sure you have received all the necessary information to prepare your return.
And so, Augie, at W Tax Group, you and your fellow tax attorneys specialize in helping those who, for some reasons or another, may run into quote-unquote tax problems and have to make corrections, or may run into some legal issues with the IRS in correcting those issues. What are some of those common reasons or likely reasons that someone may have received a letter from the IRS, and then at that point, where does the process start? What should their immediate next moves be?
First of all, there's an incredible number of people who have not filed returns. The estimates are well over 25 million taxpayers in this country that have not even filed their tax returns. The average number of years that taxpayers haven't filed average about 6 years. So oftentimes the IRS will eventually catch up. They'll send a notice, we haven't received a return, and what's going on. And taxpayers, if they haven't filed their returns, they'll put it away. And it's also common with individuals. There's about 37% or more of Americans or taxpayers who are unable to meet their tax obligation. That is, they file their tax returns, but they owe money and they don't have the funds to take care of that. So what you're dealing with are non-filers, taxpayers who file their returns and are unable to take care of their tax obligation. I always advise clients that if you haven't filed your returns for years and eventually the IRS catches up to you, you want to get compliant. And we can talk about what compliant means. For people who are filing their returns but are not able to meet their tax obligations, they can think about an installment agreement. There are financially based installment agreements and there's non-financial based installment agreements. The IRS tends to be pretty flexible when it comes to non-financial, meaning you don't have to disclose your finance to get into a payment plan. You just need to be willing to come forth and see if we can work out a payment arrangement that meets with the taxpayer's monthly needs, and they can cover that. So there's a lot of different aspects. Regarding the non-filer, that's a bigger challenge because the IRS policy is to work out something with the IRS, you first have to be compliant. And from the IRS perspective, the policy on compliance, meaning you filed your returns and you've done everything you can to stay current filing your returns, it's 6 years. And so for 2021, they're looking back to 2016 and forward that you need to get all those returns filed to be compliant. And if you owe taxes, after you become compliant, you get the returns prepared and you show you owe taxes, is to then do a workout plan with the IRS, some form of a payment arrangement. And if you can't afford the kind of payment arrangement they're seeking, it could be because your finances won't allow that. And in that regard, we come into play. We help the taxpayer put together their finance to see what is affordable, as the IRS calls it, determine what your monthly disposable income is.
We're joined by Dr. Agustin Arbulu, President and COO of W Tax Group, joining us on the Megacast. So you mentioned getting compliant and then working out those plans for paying off whatever taxes you may not have paid back to the IRS over a number of years, upwards of 6 years or beyond. So if someone gets compliant, and if someone is compliant but they haven't paid their taxes and they haven't worked out a plan with the IRS, what are some of the numerous penalties or legal troubles that a person can find themselves in for not properly filing and then, of course, properly paying what taxes they may owe?
Right. What happens is that when you haven't paid your taxes, the IRS begins to send you notices. Reminder notices. You owe this amount. This is what. Please make arrangement to get it paid. And oftentimes people will ignore it. And then you get another notice, and then you get another notice. So there's a series of notices that the IRS sends out, each one getting a little more aggressive to eventually where they will say, hey, this is your last notice. You got in the next 30 days, if you don't contact us and you don't make arrangements, we're going to levy you your account. We're either going to garnish your wages, we're going to take some action. And so the IRS has a number of tools available, from filing liens on property to levying, going after your bank accounts, garnishing your wages. And the last thing you want, if you are W-2, you're employed, is to have your wages garnished, because then it becomes a little challenging to get them removed. And the amount that they can take from a paycheck can be substantial. So you really do want to respond as soon as possible and seeing someone a professional that can help you work out those issues with the IRS. It's important. A lot of times people say, well, I can do that on my own. It's intimidating. It's scary for people to deal with the IRS. So I always advise them, get yourself a tax professional who specializes in working with the IRS and working out and resolutions for a tax individual taxpayer.
Augie, another serious issue related to taxes is, of course, tax fraud. What are the more common types of tax fraud that is encountered by the IRS or in interactions between the IRS and taxpayers or agencies that may be paying taxes, such as businesses? And is it typically bad actors who are committing a fraud on purpose, or is it simple mistakes that people are making that add up over time and get them under scrutiny by the IRS?
Well, simple omissions can be explained, but if you are omitting income and your lifestyle does not reflect what you're reporting, then there's an issue. That's on the one hand, that's sort of an omission of income, that you don't report all the earnings that you make. But in today's day and age, with communication and technology the way it is, you're going to be able to decipher how much you're making. And if you think you're not, you're kidding yourself. The IRS has tools available to figure it out. They can access your bank accounts. They can look at your lifestyle and how you live. Is it way above what you're reporting? So that's an income omission issue. Then, of course, you have other people. A lot of times, businesses will report excessive expenses as a way of reducing what their taxable income is. You have to be prepared on both ends to substantiate how much income you really make and how much expenses, those expenses that you're incurring. And too often people get lax and ignore both sides of it. Report what you have earned, that's reportable taxable income, and substantiate the expenses. The IRS will at times, I've seen it often in a number of cases that I will deal with, that they forget to provide that substantiation. If you got alimony that at one time was deductible, we'll present the checks, present the proof that you've been making alimony payments to your former wife and you're deducting it, or other expenses, business-related expenses that you can prove. And those are the kinds of areas that you have to be careful about. And if you push it too far one way or the other, then you get into the realm of maybe fraud, that you are purposely evading from having to pay. If it's an honest mistake, we call it an honest mistake. But then you get to those individuals who think they can outsmart the taxing authorities, and I say that's virtually impossible to do.
Yeah, you want to do what's best for your bottom line, but you have to keep it within the books. You have to keep it within the letter of the law in order to take advantage of those benefits without trying to take advantage of the system, which can get you in legal trouble. We're joined by Dr. Agustin Arbulu, President and CEO of W Tax Group. You can learn more information on their website, wtaxattorney.com. That's wtaxattorney.com. Augie, back to just the average daily person, and on some more of a positive note, as people are filing their taxes this year, what are some of the common deductions that are often left on the table, and some deductions that are available this year that regular taxpayers like myself that may be filing their taxes, filling out their taxes, may overlook but be able to take advantage of?
Well, let's remember, we have a very generous standard deduction. At one time, you could be able to itemize, if you remember many years ago. But over the years, they have raised the standard deduction that it's very difficult to itemize your expenses to exceed the standard deduction. So I always tell the client, just take your standard deduction. But then there are credits, charitable contribution. I think there's, and I'm not a tax preparer, and we can talk about the differences. I'm more about tax resolution. But in terms of some advantages, you've got earned income credits. You have a child tax credit. If you have children that can qualify, you have the charitable contribution credits. So there are credits out there that are available, and you want to take full advantage of those that exist based on where you are income-wise. And for example, like charitable contribution credits, I think you can do, if you're married, up to $300 or $600, and you don't have to show any proof on that. That's automatically given to you.
So, Augie, you mentioned as you were answering that you as a tax attorney, you work primarily on resolution of tax-related issues, whereas there are those that may work on both resolution and preparation. So what is the difference between those agencies that and what they can do in working on resolution versus preparation of taxes?
Well, every year we have to prepare our returns. This country is built on voluntary disclosure and filing of your returns, as you know. And so you have to prepare your returns. I always advise people, get a professional to prepare your returns. Don't do it on your own. I can't tell you how many cases I get with people who will tell me, I asked them, did you get your tax return was filed? Yes. Who prepared it? I prepared it. Not that TurboTax is bad or another software is bad, but you need a professional to be able to make sure all your deductions are in order and you are able to get the maximum benefits from having it properly prepared and filed. So that, to me, is number one. That's what tax preparation is all about. You have to have your returns filed before you can address issues that could arise from the fact that you filed returns the IRS is challenging. A lot of times they're challenging because you've omitted some income or you're claiming some expenses that they want you to provide evidence of those expenses. So let's do that. And I think that in this country, most people will aim to have all that supporting document. But for some reason, taxpayers, when they get that letter from the IRS, they ignore it, or they don't take the time to really carefully look at what the IRS is asking. respond to it timely. That's about tax resolution. That's about resolving challenges, push back with the IRS. And they understand that. And if you provide the evidence, you're going to be in a more strong footing to be able to claim the deductions or ensure that you're not paying any more than you need to be paying the IRS or any taxing authority.
Augie, just a few more minutes with you before we say goodbye. Any other tax-related issues that we haven't touched on today that would be important for our audience to be considering at this time as we approach April 18th?
Well, if we approach April 18th, I always, as we're getting older, I always say, have you gathered all the necessary information? And if you're not sure, you have the right to seek an automatic extension to October 15th of the year. Take advantage of it so you can calmly make sure that you've gathered all the information you need, both on the income side, on the expense side, to be able to go to your tax preparer and have him or her put together the returns for filing. That would be something that I advise clients to do. And if you get a notice, if you get an IRS notice because there's an income discrepancy or they're asking for substantiation, don't ignore it. Get yourself a tax professional who can advise you, walk you through that. The last thing you want is to ignore that, because that's where you have opportunities to cost you less in terms of addressing what the IRS is seeking, as opposed to later on you're trying to reconstruct things. And a lot of times taxpayers can't do that, or it becomes too late and you can't challenge the claims of the IRS because you never challenged it in the first place.
Augie, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Tyler. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. Again, wtaxattorney.com for more information and to get in contact with W Tax Group. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, it is National Multiple Sclerosis Month, and we'll talk about MS, its symptoms, treatment options, and more with Sara Rossman from the Michigan Institute of Neurological Disorders. That's next. You're tuned in to the Michigan Megacast.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all?
You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
According to the National MS Society, nearly 1 million people, about 925 people in the U.S. are living with multiple sclerosis. Joining us now to talk about multiple sclerosis, as March is National MS Month, is Sara Rossman, the Vice President of Business Development and Research at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders. Sara, thank you for being with us today.
Hi, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
I appreciate having you on to talk about MS. So I'm sure many people have heard of multiple sclerosis. Many, however, may not know exactly what causes MS and the physiological effects that it can have on people, which are quite varying. So if you could, if you would, please give us an overview of what from the medical community's knowledge causes MS, and what are some of the different ways that it can affect people's bodies?
Well, we don't actually know the full cause. Most recently, a new study was published, an actually well-designed study showing that a correlation between Epstein-Barr virus as a viral trigger for multiple sclerosis. So most people with MS will have the antibodies that have been exposed to Epstein-Barr virus. That doesn't mean that everyone who has Epstein-Barr virus is going to develop MS. we think it's a number of factors that contribute to the diagnosis, and genetic issues. It's not fully genetic. It's putting the pieces of a puzzle together to even diagnose it. But the fact that there's been a lot of speculation over the years that there must be a viral trigger to a lot of autoimmune disorders, and MS is considered an autoimmune disease, meaning that your own immune system turns against particular antigen that they detect in the body, and so the negative thing that they want to attack, which unfortunately in multiple sclerosis is the brain and spinal cord. That can then lead to varying degrees of symptoms and ultimately, resulting in quality of life issues.
So there are multiple forms of multiple sclerosis that can affect people in different ways. Can you talk about the different, really the predominant forms of multiple sclerosis and the different ways, that it takes a toll on somebody's brain and spinal cord and ultimately their body, but also who those different forms of multiple sclerosis really usually affect?
Right. So again, like you said, about 1 million people in the U.S. Have now been diagnosed. Several years, probably even up to 10 years ago, we thought that was only 400,000. We've gotten a lot better at diagnosing and treating patients. The predominant category, I guess, is what's called relapsing remitting. Patients have a relapse or an exacerbation of symptoms, and those symptoms can present in various different ways depending on what area of the body or brain or spinal cord is affected. And then that's the predominant patient population. And then they'll go into what's called a remission, where they recover from that many times without any sustained disability. However, over time, it's a progressive disease, or can be without treatment. And then patients many times can then take on a form called secondary progressive MS, which either has relapses or doesn't have relapses. And then we have what's called primary progressive MS, which is a much smaller population of patients. However, it's a much more debilitating form of the disorder. Typically, those patients start out, it takes time to determine whether they're primary progressive, but over time, they'll have a consistent progression of disability.
We're joined by Sara Rossman. She's the Vice President of Business Development and Research at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders, otherwise known as MIND, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. And what are the symptoms of MS? And what are the ranging severities of those symptoms among those 4 classifications, so to speak, of multiple sclerosis that you just overviewed?
Yeah, so MS can present in a number of different ways in patients. It's different for most patients. Many times early presentation will be what we call optic neuritis, which is a potential visual disturbance in one eye, whether it's visual loss up to double vision. That is a lot of times the presenting symptoms for a lot of patients. And then it can be something as simple as sensory disturbance, a numb or tingliness, to bowel bladder issues, weakness, gait disturbance, their balance is off, and again, cognitive issues, fatigue are very, very common. There's a phenomenon called cognitive fog that most MS patients can relate to, and it's interesting with COVID how there's this phenomenon of like a cognitive fog, and it's definitely very, I think, similar to what MS patients sort of experience more consistently, which has been hard to measure and capture, but we're getting better at that with certain neuropsychological assessments, and then we can do work on, again, if you don't use it, you lose it. So we try to keep people engaged, keep people active, et cetera.
We're joined by the Vice President of Business Development and Research at the Michigan Institute of Neurological Disorders, or MIND, Sara Rossman, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Learn more information and get in contact with the Michigan Institute of Neurological Disorders by visiting their website at mindonline.com. That is mindonline.com. And so, Sara, related to multiple sclerosis, my dad has MS. He was diagnosed in the summer of 2010 at the age of 50 with multiple sclerosis. He had similar symptoms to what he has been feeling over the last 12 years that he has known he's had MS, well before he was diagnosed. So with that, when generally are people diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and what typically is the process of them going from relaying their symptoms to a doctor or to a neurologist, and then ultimately being diagnosed and then hopefully soon after begin treatment for MS?
Yeah, so again, it depends on the sort of severity of the symptoms, right? A vision loss is going to probably trigger someone to go to an ophthalmologist or an eye doctor initially to say what's going on, which then when they identify that there's inflammation in the optic nerve, they're going to potentially send the patient to a neurologist or specialist. You know, numbness and tingling, again, could it be carpal tunnel? A lot of people dismiss those things. They don't really think about it. Pain, there's certain things that depends on that person's threshold. Some people, are more concerned and they go to their primary care, and their primary care will then refer them to a neurologist, typically, or should refer them to a neurologist, I should say. And then others, again, will wait. And, it sounds like with your dad, he probably just thought I'm getting older. It's, part of whatever, and just tried to kind of muscle through, which a lot of people will do. What we do know is that treating early is very, very important. So, and we're able to diagnose much earlier now. So I too have multiple sclerosis. My first symptoms were in 1991, but there were no treatments. The criteria was very different, and it was very difficult to diagnose, and there wasn't anything you could do about it anyway. And then finally, I had to wait for what was considered a second clinical attack, which occurred in 1994, and that's when I was actually diagnosed. At that time, though, there was one therapy, and a second therapy was coming out soon that seemed more suitable for me, just given the nature of it was an injection, and in terms of being compliant and adhering to it, I had a better chance with this next drug. But starting that drug is what triggered creating a comprehensive multiple sclerosis research and infusion center at Mind. And so for us, it has always been getting on treatment as soon as possible, give patients the best chance for outcomes. Now we have over 22 therapies to treat MS, which is pretty amazing.
So you mentioned those 22 therapies. There are multiple different forms of treatment or strategies for treatment. And so what's the prognosis with multiple sclerosis? Because as I mentioned, my dad was diagnosed at 50. He has MS. My uncle, my mom's brother, also has MS, and there seems to be two different kind of outcomes there between the two of them. My dad's physical symptoms tend to be more severe than my uncle's symptoms. Now, he's also much younger and has been more prolonged activity before his diagnosis. But what sort of factors go into the effectiveness of these treatments, and what treatments are available for people across the ranging classifications of multiple sclerosis?
Yeah, so, that's a complicated question because every patient's different. We do have fellowships in multiple sclerosis now. So I would say it's important that you go to an MS specialist. We have several here that's what they're pretty much dedicated to. And now not even just a general neurologist, because there's so many therapies and treatments, and because it really needs to be it's a partnership with the patient. This is a chronic disease that isn't going away for now. We don't have a cure yet. We're working on that. But a cure is very different for someone who doesn't have the disease yet. We want to prevent them from getting it. And then people who have the disease, who are functioning okay, can we just stop it and keep them safe and no progression? And then patients who are have more progression, we need repair and neurorestorative therapies. So a lot of those are still yet to come. But the fact that we have options now that patients can try, there's a lot of variables that go into picking what maybe should be we think should be the best treatment for a patient, but that patient also has to take the drug, want to take it. There's injectables, there's oral therapies, and then there's infusion therapies. And again, we have a range of 22 that people can actually, have an impact on their disease.
We're joined by Sonda Rossman, the Vice President of Business Development and Research at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders, otherwise known as MIND. Learn more information, visit our website at mindonline.com. That's mindonline.com. And so you had mentioned earlier you played a critical role in the creation of the MS Center at MIND. It has an MS Center and an infusion center over there. Give us some details on what sort of treatment people can undergo at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders and the work that your center does.
Yeah, so MIND is a pretty extraordinary place. It was originally created as a private neurology practice, which to service in one of the largest private neurology practices in the state, and had the first private MRI, and at the time we had a CT scanner. We've now just expanded, and we now have subspecialties of centers of excellence. We were recognized by the National MS Society as a comprehensive MS center of care in partnership with them, which is a wonderful distinction. We have a dedicated headache pain center, Parkinson movement disorder center with amazing, we have 30 providers. We offer on-site testing, electrodiagnostics, EEG, EMG, OCT, 2 MRIs, like I said, open bore, meaning that they're bigger so patients feel less claustrophobic, and you can see your doctor. And then if you need an infusion of something, whether it's for migraine, whether it's for an acute relapse of MS, whether it's for treatment of disease-modifying therapy for your MS, CIDP, myasthenia, something called NMO, spectrum disorder, neuromyelitis optica, which is on the spectrum of MS, but however, a very different disease. And the amazing thing is that there's so many more therapies now that are becoming available. And we're part of those research, the research that's being done on that. So we can offer patients options even earlier many times than they otherwise would have, waiting for FDA approval.
And so you mentioned that the Michigan Institute of Neurological Disorders initially was a quite extensive, quite large private practice. It's now delving, of course, into treatment, as you mentioned, with the MS Center, with the infusion centers, the other specialties that are specifically studied and are treated through MIND at this moment in time. On the research front, particularly for multiple sclerosis, what kind of research is being done by MIND at this time? And what are some of the more recent and interesting discoveries or things that you and others and your colleagues over at MIND are looking into regarding multiple sclerosis?
Right. So again, we've gotten better at diagnosing and classifying patients typically. And again, from MS, there may even be, we're now finding that there's other disorders that maybe appear to be MS, but aren't. And so we are able to now isolate those and try to target and treat those. But for MS research, again, we've come such a long way since the late 90s, mid 90s when I was diagnosed, and again have been part of some of the most important therapies that exist. And currently now there's a new class of drugs called BTKI, or tyrosine kinase inhibitors, which seem to be very safe and seem to be very effective and work on 2 different components of the immune system. No data has been published. This is most companies though have this class of drugs. It seems to be very, very promising as another oral alternative for patients. And then neurorestorative therapies are huge, right? We want to repair the damage that's done from MS. So MS, your immune system's attacking your brain and spinal cord, the coating over the nerves that disrupt conduction of the nerves, which then can result in blindness, paralysis, sensory disturbance, cognitive issues, fatigue, etc. So if we can somehow restore that connection in some way, that's sort of the ideal scenario. Unfortunately, to date, none of the therapies have been able to prove that. They have on a very small scale, but not generalizable to the larger population. But there's still a lot of work being done, and there's a lot of repair therapies still sort of in the pipeline, and that's what we're hoping. And then, of course, the Epstein-Barr virus, component. If we can find a vaccine or a way to stop, the disease from happening to younger individuals, or if we can, for the people who already have it, if we can prevent the progression of the disease for those, but we still need a repair of damage that's been done. So we're trying.
So Sonda, in your research and the research of your colleagues, both at MIND and in the wider medical community, neurological medicine community, People may be wondering, like they do with any other condition, is multiple sclerosis genetic?
Yeah. So there is a genetic, again, there's a genetic component, but it's not fully genetic. In monozygotic twins, you would expect that if one twin got it, then 100% of the time, the other twin would get it. But it really is only about 50% of the time that other. So there's a genetic component with what we think is a viral trigger now, potentially Epstein-Barr virus. And then is it, again, are there other environmental factors that contribute to the perfect storm of why certain people develop this or any other disorder, really. But.
So for individuals or for people who have those with MS in their life, what support systems what support systems exist for those both living with MS and for those that may be assisting with those living with MS in their life or taking care of those with MS in their life?
Well, don't underestimate the importance of the caregiver and the support of family and friends and whatever that person's sort of network is, including their healthcare team. And that's what it should be, a partnership, a team approach to taking care of people. And that's what we try to really focus and emphasize on here. We have dedicated MS doctors, MS certified nursing. Again, we refer out for physical therapy, but keeping people's minds, bodies, nutrition. It's a comprehensive approach, right? This is your body, and we need to try to preserve as much as possible until we can find that cure. And we've done a really good job. We have disease-modifying therapies now that can actually sort of halt the process. It's not perfect, and it doesn't reverse symptoms or damage that's been done, but if we can stop that and buy time until better therapies come out, that's really what we're trying to do. And for a lot of people, they just go on leading completely normal lives, and you would never know that they have MS. For others, not as great. We do have a therapy, the first therapy that was approved for primary progressive MS. It's about 24% effective, but it's something, again, to buy a population of patients who didn't have anything. They now at least have some way to fight back for the disease. And again, being on a therapy is incredibly empowering and really important for patients. And so part of why this MS Center was created is truly to give patients access to care and therapy the way that, fundamentally myself and my late husband who co-created the center felt that it was important you take care of people.
We're joined by Sandra Rossman, the Vice President of Business Development and Research at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders on the Oakland County Megacast. Again, their website, mindonline.com, mindonline.com. Sandra, before we let you go, anything else that would be important for our audience to know about the work being done at Mind at this time or about multiple sclerosis?
Yeah, Mind, again, we hope we don't have to see you, but we're here if you need us. And it's the goal was one stop. Basically, you're able to come here to get as many things as you need in one place, which can preserve the person, close proximity parking, your caregiver, if you can have all your testing, diagnostics, treatment, and your doctor visit in one place, it's really a beneficial thing all around, cost efficient for payers, and convenient, and really some of the best care that you could ever receive. We're very proud of our center.
Sandra, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Appreciate
Stay safe.
it. You can
Stay healthy, everybody.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. To learn more about the program at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you will find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. On spring break, your kids may relax at home, or maybe you'll even take a vacation as a family. Well, there are many additional opportunities for educational experiences for your kids this spring break season. Joining us now is Brandon Shamoun, Assistant Director of Student Involvement at Wayne State University, as well as Niharika as well as I have the list right here, as well as Niharika Dantuluri, student coordinator, as well as Sara, Ellias, student coordinator, all appearing to talk about alternative spring break through Wayne State University. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate having you all on. So, Brendan, let's start with you. Can you tell us exactly what alternative spring break is, and what was the inspiration for alternative spring break Detroit?
Yeah, so here at Wayne State, we try to think a little bit outside of the box. The program's been happening for about 17 or 18 years. And it's really an opportunity, like you said. So some folks like to go out on vacation. Some folks like to just sit at home or take some extra hours at work. This program is really designed to allow our students to get back to the city that they are learning in. So it's a 6-day, 5-night program where our Wayne State students are held, it's a lock-in program, kind of like a camp style. And they're giving back to the city by volunteering at different nonprofits in the area. And we try to specifically not be in Midtown and downtown to support our outside neighborhoods within Detroit, in Highland Park and Hamtramck.
So, Sara and Niharika, as students at Wayne State University and being affiliated with Wayne State, being downtown in the city of Detroit, and having participated yourselves in the alternative spring break program, for the two of you, what has it meant for both of you to have been involved in a program that's giving back to a city that you're spending critical years of your life and building memories in, having been students at Wayne State?
It's been a really special experience because, well, sometimes you'll visit an organization or something or a nonprofit to volunteer. ASBD allows you to really immerse yourself within the service activities and Detroit, so the city overall. And if you develop a new perspective of the city, of many different facets of how the city works, and it's a really valuable program.
We also try to immerse ourselves in as much of Detroit that we don't get to see as students. So Wayne State's in Midtown, and a lot of the satellite campuses are around the same area. So getting to experience not just nonprofits, but local mom and pop shops for food, and getting to explore Detroit on foot rather than driving in and out on the freeway is a completely different experience. And I've definitely gotten to know and come to love the city a lot differently than I would have just as a student.
We're joined by Brendan Shamoun, Assistant Director of Student Involvement at Wayne State University, as well as Niharika Dantuluri and Sara, Ellias, student coordinators at Alternative Spring Break Detroit. So Brendan, for those that may be interested in a program like this, who is it available to, and why should both students themselves as well as their parents be interested in getting their kids involved?
Yeah, so this program is open to any Wayne State student registered during the winter semester. You can be a first-year student coming into Wayne State for the first time this semester, or you can be a medical student at our med school. You can be a post-bachelor student. As long as you're taking at least one credit, you're officially a Wayne State student and you're able to register for the program. Applications typically go out in January. And then we've been planning this since last semester, and our program starts on Sunday, this coming Sunday, and it's held until Friday. And why should students and parents be excited to join this program? It's a bit unique. A lot of universities do alternative breaks programs. We do alternative spring break Detroit. We stay in our backyard. A lot of schools are coming to Detroit, coming to other areas, other big cities, moving out from where they're housed and going to help other cities. We really saw an opportunity back years and years ago when the program started to not have our students support other cities, but instead support our backyard. And so it's a way for new students or even just students that have been here to see Detroit in a different perspective and a different view, but also you get to meet at least 40 to 50 other students. So if you're walking in with maybe not being well connected to the university or not having as many friends as you would like, you automatically get to have 40 to 50 other friends because you're literally with them every day of the week for the program for 6 days, volunteering, eating, waking up, etc. With this group of students, and you build a cohort of students. And year after year, I always hear that their students are still in contact. I did the program about 10 years ago as a student, and I'm still in contact with some of those students within my program year. So it's a really cool opportunity to not only get to see Detroit, but get to experience and learn more about yourself as well and meet other folks.
So Niharika, let's start with you. There's so many different options for people, what they will do over their spring break, whether it's just relaxing at home, catching up on some schoolwork, going on a vacation. For you specifically, what inspired you to join Alternative Spring Break and then to become a student coordinator for the program also to help organize Alternative Spring Breaks in the future?
Actually, one of my friends did it her freshman year and then got me started. This is now my 5th or 6th year, and I'm a graduate student, and I became a student coordinator to work with Sara one last time before we both graduated. And ASPD has always held like a close and special place in my heart after the first time. Like Brandon said, you really get to know these people when you get locked into a room with them for 6 days. But more importantly, I got to see parts of Detroit that I never would have seen sitting at home. Like most people usually love to see Midtown and downtown because that's where the big tall buildings are. That's where the fancy art galleries are. But there's so much going on in Detroit. There's so much history in Detroit beyond just the little hub that is Wayne State. And getting to see a different part of it every single year brings me back again and again.
And so, Sarah, Niharika brings up an interesting point there, that you do gain those different perspectives. You do see different parts of Detroit that if you don't live in the city or haven't lived in the city for very long, or you're just visiting the city, you often don't get those perspectives. For you, what have been some of those perspectives or those different sides of the city of Detroit that make Detroit such a compelling city that you've experienced through your Alternative Spring Break experience?
Sure. So first, Detroit is so big. It's an extremely large city. So while many of us are very concentrated just on campus and even Midtown and downtown, there is so much more beyond that. So ASPD gives students the opportunity to explore different parts of this city that they really know nothing about. And you interact with these nonprofits. Some of them are run by families, so you interact one-on-one with them. And I think it's very unique to Wayne State because we have a personal connection, like going to school here. So it's not like we're just visiting a random city, and we really develop these connections and relationships. And it doesn't just stop at ASPD. It usually continues, and that's what's so amazing about the program is it's a really great place to start initiatives and relationships.
We're joined by 3 people from Alternative Spring Break through Wayne State University joining us on the Megacast. And so you do have an event coming up this weekend set on Sunday, March 13th, as well as on Friday, March 18th for Alternative Spring Break events. Applications are closed to join Alternative Spring Break for 2022. Brendan, if there are people that are interested in joining, are there still opportunities to come along on some of these projects this weekend, or what opportunity is there to then look into next year if they want to join Alternative Spring Break?
Yeah, so the Dean of Students office here at Wayne State oversees the program, and I, as you said, I work here in the program, or here working in the office, and so applications typically open around January for any new students that are interested to be a participant, and typically they find out by February. The program happens every March during spring break. So we are currently limited just to that time frame because we do the program during the second semester and the winter semester. So anybody that is interested can please feel free to send me an email or visit our office, or just wait till applications come out. And like I said, you have to be a Wayne State student to be eligible for the program. But we're always looking for local nonprofits and community organizations to help partner with our program. Like I said, we partner with Detroit, Hamtramck, and Highland Park organizations.
And so before we go, anything else from any of the 3 of you that our audience should know about the Alternative Spring Break program through Wayne State University?
No, I think it's been a really awesome time to be here chatting with you all. I just wanted to mention that last year we did the program virtually because of COVID, and we're really excited to try and give back to our city this year. We really try to make a footprint with all of our students here, giving the volunteers hours and whatnot during the time. So we're really excited to be back in person to get the ball rolling to create impact in our community.
We thank the 3 of you for joining us on the Megacast to tell us more about Alternative Spring Break through Wayne State University. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Michigan Megacast. You can learn more information about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Megacast link, where you'll find all of our full episodes as well as each individual interview. If you're just tuning in and you missed our conversation about Wayne State University's alternative spring break program, you're going to want to hear about that. You'll be able to see that interview later on this afternoon on our website on demand anytime, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Big thank you to everybody that joined us on today's edition of the Megacast from, of course, the Wayne State University Alternative Spring Break Program. We're joined by Brandon Shamoun, their Assistant Director of Student Involvement, Sara, Elias, as well as Niharika Dantuluri, all three members of their Alternative Spring Break Program leadership over there at Wayne State University. Big thank you to them. Thank you as well to Sonda Rossman from the Michigan Institute of Neurological Disorders, or MIND, for talking to us all about multiple sclerosis. Dr. Agustin Arbulu, President and COO of the W Tax Group, for joining us talking about preparations for tax season as the deadline is approaching on April 18th this year. Robert Boyle from the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan, and therapist Carrie Krawick from the Birmingham Maple Clinic. Again, all those interviews on our website, civiccentertv.com/Megacast, where you can also learn more information about every television, radio, and web outlet that joins us every single day in Oakland County and every other county across the state of Michigan, where you can watch us live and live to tape, including outlets such as My Michigan TV, otherwise known as MyMy. More information on MyMy at mymytv.com, mymytv.com, where you can also learn about how to take the Megacast on the road with you on your smartphone and bring Megacast home with you as well on your smart TV with their free My Michigan TV apps. mymytv.com, or go to civiccentertv.com/Megacast to learn more information about all of our partnering stations and find us on demand. We also highly encourage you to go to our coronavirus page, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, to stay up to date on everything you need to know about COVID-19 from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division, as well as our top headlines all across the state from a number of great journalistic outlets. Click on those articles, read them, read the supporting materials, and if you have the means to do so, we highly encourage you to subscribe. Big thank you to our crew as well. Calvin Brown, our technical director, with me in the studio for the 2-hour extravaganza that is the Megacast every single day. Our Zoom producer at the office of My Michigan TV, Jared Clark. The king of television, Larry Nyland, our producer, and Maddie Mustian out at Master Control. Coming up next across our network, we go back to regular programming on My Michigan TV. It's Steve Leto live from noon to 1 to 2. It's Larry and Maddie live, and then we'll return tomorrow with the Oakland County and the Michigan Megacast beginning at 10 a.m.